Welcome to the show, Mr. Chapman.
Well, thank you very much for the lovely introduction.
I don't have you.
You don't have me.
Hello, Mr. Chapman.
I am here.
The mic is on.
I am here.
Okay. Do we have? Are we out there, Bobby? Are you feeding the channel? Well, Bobby says we're feeding the channel.
I have. I can hear you 5 by 5. Hello.
Yeah.
Can you hear
Mr. Chapman,
me?
are you there? Yeah, we got him. There he is. Okay, Larissa turned the mic off. Larissa turned my mic off, Mr. Chapman. Everybody else could hear you, but I couldn't.
Well, what are you going to do? Well, anyway, thank you very much for the introduction. And I'm getting an echo, but I'm sure they'll fix it. And I want you to tell them the story of the 83-year-old Marine, ex-Marine, of course, whose home was invaded. Yeah.
Former Marine. There's no X's out here. They're former Marines and we're Marines until we die.
Well, tell them what happened.
All right, guys. Well, the Marines already know it, but those of you in the civilian world out there, a United States Marine his home was invaded. He's 83 years old, and needless to say, the burglars are visiting St. Peter. Is that the one you want to?
No, there were two of them, but that one there, a 19-year-old attacked him and tried to beat him up and rob his house, and he fended him off in true Marine style. The guy finally gave up, ran out, and was walking down the street, a ways away, and the police saw him, and he fit the description, and they picked him up, and now he's in jail. But it just the reason I'm bringing this up.
Well, he fit the description because he was beaten up, black and blue.
Well, that's true. But the point of this, bringing it up, is no matter how old you are, you may be capable of defending yourself, and you never forget the training that you got as a Marine.
Amen to that. We had a Marine here in Little Rock, Arkansas, sitting down eating breakfast at the Waffle House. He was just a young whippersnapper, 67 years old, and two black guys came in pointing their guns and wanted to rob the place. 3 o'clock in the morning. He was the only one sitting there in the booth, and one of the guys walked over and stuck his gun right in his head and told him to move over to another chair at the front while the other one was behind the counter getting the cash register opened up. And the 67-year-old Marine, 3 days shy of 68, reached up, grabbed the guy's gun, twisted it around, put the gun up against the guy's head, and boom, shot him dead. Pull the gun out of the dead robber's hand, pointed it at the guy behind the register, and says, "You can go see St. Peter. You can lay down face front." And obviously, the black guy laid down on the floor. And the police got there. After they made the phone call to the police department, it was 30 minutes before the first car showed up.
That's disgraceful. And
we're not talking about this is out in the boondocks. This is like a mile from the State Highway Police Department.
Well, I had the same thing happen to me in Malibu about 30 years ago, and the Highway Patrol wouldn't answer the call, and I had a shootout with 3 guys, and they were home invasion robbery, but they picked the wrong house. They don't. Some policemen don't answer because they don't want to get involved in a firefight.
Mm-hmm.
My son was there at the time, and the police were on the radio, and they asked the 2 highway patrolmen who didn't answer the call why you didn't answer. They said we're on a code 7, and my son says that's a coffee break. He was 12 years old at the time.
How old was he?
Most policemen are not that way, but some of them don't want to answer those calls.
Oh, that's true. How old was your son?
Now he's 42. It was 30 years
Oh,
ago.
so he was only 7 years old when the officer said that's a code 7, and your son said it was a coffee break.
No, he was 12 at the time, and
12. Okay.
he was out there with his AR-15, waiting for me to lose because if I lost, he was going to take him down. These guys didn't stand a chance. That's right. My kids started shooting at 3 and 4 years old.
And hey, that's it. Now, I'm not laughing at that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in Louisiana, we're taught from the time that we can aim and point. We're out playing with cap pistols at age 3, and at age 4, 22 pistols put in our hand, and we get to shoot a few cans. And by age 6, we're shooting 22 rifles and 20 gauge shotguns with no sweat.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a 20 gauge for the kids when they were little.
Oh yeah, that was my birthday presents at age 9. Was a 20 gauge shotgun.
Well, my kids were already using. My kids at 8 and 9 were using 45 autos and ARs and AKs.
Well, my father told me that my father and my mother were not together. He told me because he was a World War II veteran. He said that I wanted to get you a 45 caliber when you turned 9, but your mother wouldn't let me send it down there to you. He had already left Louisiana and was working up in Illinois, and she wouldn't let him send one. In Louisiana back in 1957. There weren't any gun regulations, so you went to the store. You could literally go to TG&Y and buy a pistol.
That's right.
In those days, and that's how the socialists have taken over America and mandated gun control since the 1960s. And we all know, Mr. Chapman, that war is only a legalized mass murder. Period. And I quote from the French general on that, French General Sept Spiridovich, who is a French general. His mother and father were Russian. And so no true words were better spoken. War is only legalized mass murder. And Major General Smedley Darlington Butler, my great-great-uncle, is quoted as war is a racket. But that is a treatise that he wrote in 1933, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very proud to know that we have officers today that read that. And it's become mandated reading now amongst the officer corps who are constitutionalists. And this show's about finances. And as we move forward, those of you that have questions, you can call into the show. The phone number for the phone bridge is area code 347-308-8047. And then you can post in the Marine Corps chat room and the Australian chat room, the New Zealand chat room, as well as the Blog Talk chat room. And we appreciate you coming to the show. And we're always proud to have Mr. Chapman here, big time. And I've got a fistful of questions here, Mr. Chapman. The fears that the EU nations are escalating because of the rise in the banking and borrowing going on over there. Ask Mr. Chapman if he could explain what's going on over here in Europe.
Well, first of all, they committed themselves for a little under $1 trillion to bail out 5 countries that are in trouble. Everybody's heard about Greece, and then there's Ireland and Spain and Portugal and Italy as well. And we now find, a couple of days ago, that these nations, the healthy ones, are going to need another $135 billion just to stay solvent. Now, you say to yourself, how are they going to come up with $1 trillion when they need $135 billion to stay solvent? Well, the problem is they had what they call a stress test about 2 months ago, and they said everything was hunky-dory except for one bank, and they were going to fix that up. But what they're doing is they're running two sets of books. Now, anybody who's taken accounting 1 and 2 or even cost accounting knows that you can't keep two sets of books. They put people in jail for that. But the United States government and the Bank for International Settlements and the FASB, which is an accounting organization, say that's okay because they're all broke. Well, the same thing is true in Europe. In fact, the United States, during this last 3 years, not only has been in trouble, but they have as well in Europe. And the Federal Reserve placed $12.8 trillion someplace, probably all banks. And they won't tell where the money went, nor will they tell the collateralization that was given for the loans that were given out, and whether they ever got the money back. And Bloomberg, which is a national news service, sued the Federal Reserve, which is privately owned, and they won in district court, they won in appellate court, and now the feds are going to appeal to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court will not take the case. I mean, that's what I think. And they have until next March, April, if the case is brought before them, to say, no, we're not going to take that. So all the Fed is doing is trying to buy time, because when the people find out what they did with that money, they're going to go berserk, because they bailed out virtually every bank, central bank in Europe with money that they created out of thin air. And so the same thing has been going on in Europe through the European Central Bank, as well as the individual banks themselves. They're all in serious, serious trouble. And they all, I think, it's my feeling, that they got themselves in trouble because of they were deliberately speculating too much. You know, in the fractional banking system, you're supposed to lend up to a minimum of 9 to 10 times your underlying assets. And they ended up lending 70 times, 70. And now they're still hung out 40 times. And it was suicidal what they did. And it's only a matter of time before the entire world banking system collapses. When that is, I don't know. But they're all in serious trouble.
Very true. And staying in with the European question specifically, since you mentioned Greece, we have one comes here and says, ask Mr. Chapman if he can explain why Greece's economy has contracted and what it means by contracting. I don't really get this and understand what's going on out here in the Navy Times.
Well, contraction means to pull in, to be constricted. And all over Europe, particularly in Greece, they are contracting and restricting the economies. Now, the Greek economy has been in trouble since the 1970s. And through the years, they've continued to build up debt. And it's not the fault of the Greek people, because they didn't know what was going on. It's the fault of the leadership in the country and the bankers. In fact, just 10 years ago, actually it was 9, when Greece was accepted into the European Union, everybody else in the Union knew they were keeping two sets of books, and that Goldman Sachs, through using derivatives, made them look like they were solvent, which they weren't. And Italy did the same thing, incidentally, only they were in a little bit better shape than Greece was. And so the chickens have come home to roost with Greece, and the powers behind government decided to pull the chain on them. And that means that expose that, for whatever reasons they had in mind at the time. And the government in Greece is run by a gentleman named Mr. Papandreou. And he happens to be a Bilderberger and an illuminist. And what he's doing is not only cutting back in causing austerity and contraction.